This is the 80s Show on iHeartRadio. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Say ho, ho. Say ho, whoa, ho, whoa. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show.
So how do you feel waking up this morning? If you're like a lot of people I know, you're of the opinion that, yes, finally, things are gonna be different around here. Yeah. Or you're the type of person that woke up and went, all hope is lost. Beast elephant republicanism is back, and there's no defeating it. Looks like Hillary's out of the game. I don't know. After yesterday's election, ostensibly, look, the Republicans are in charge. They have control of the House and of the Senate, and I think this could be a very, very good thing. Not for the reasons that my right-wing friends down the hall will tell you. Those folks that will make way more money than I ever will, drive nicer cars, live in nicer houses because they cater to a bunch of non-opposable, thumb-having, AR-15 hoarding, cross-burning, vestigial tail-wagging mud hut dwellers, husbands and sister wives. No, I don't think it's going to be a good thing for the reasons that those folks would tell you. But I believe that it could end up resulting in the gaping flesh wounds in our political process revealing themselves and being too hard for people on either side to ignore. Why? How is this good? How does it work? Well, let's take a look at how the Republicans are winning. Flawlessly executed strategy, in my humble opinion. See, the Republicans had lost so much ground after George Bush. They'd effectively lost the government. So they had a plan to take it back. What they did first was they won back the House. They did that back in 2010. Then they went on to win back the Senate. 2014, accomplished. Naturally, the next move is the White House. So what made the plan work so well is that a lot of people have called it was sort of a hostage situation. They held our political process hostage. They took our political and legislative process hostage and refused to pass pretty much anything. Republicans in the Senate, they were sort of obstructionists. Big legislation, small legislation in between. Yeah, they just got out in front of it as best they could every single time in any way, shape, or form possible. And what this did was, well, if you're like me, this led you to go, hey, this is broken. This is frustrating. What do we pay these guys for? Anyway, what the hell is the deal? Is our political process broken beyond all repair? Because it certainly feels that way at the moment. And that's something that you heard trotted out over and over again. Broken Washington. America's contempt with the political process. Absolute lack of faith in government. And so all Republicans had to do in this particular situation, and I think it was a rather brilliant move on their part, was they had to say, hey, all the problems that you see going on in Washington, well, if we have control of the Senate, all that goes away. They kind of created the problem and then offered themselves as the solution. Brilliant political strategy, not unlike being a snake oil salesman. It's Harry Reid's fault. It's Obama's fault. And it worked. It worked really well. And you know what? Like I've said many times on this show, I don't fall in I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I operate based on where my own moral compass points. And I always know where my true north is. And I don't believe in subscribing to either side of the political fence because I believe it limits you in your thinking. And see, this whole thing worked like a charm. And I have to take my hat off to it because it absolutely worked. Election night rolls around. Democratic Senate candidates like dust in the freaking wind. Republicans run on the same ticket, left, right, and center. Elect us, end the gridlock in Washington, we can get some stuff done. So, Democratic Senate candidates didn't really have a snowball's chance. Because let's be real here, things aren't that freaking great. Things are not that freaking great. And everybody wants something different. And the picture had been painted, well, it's clearly with a Democrat in charge. That's why everything's a big bag of suck right now. So if we lean Republican and we end the gridlock in Washington, well, then maybe, just maybe, we won't all be out on our asses in the wintertime. And, I don't know, calling it a scam is a little strong. I just think it was brilliant strategy. And now Republicans are 2/3 of the way toward having the House, the Senate. Final piece of the puzzle is obviously the White House. Here's the thing, and this is why I think it's a good thing. The American people, they're expecting action. And now Democrats are the Senate minority. They're in the enviable position of being the heroic underdogs now. All the fun of being a Monday morning quarterback and loudly announcing people's faults without any of the burden of accountability of being on the field. So in 2016, it's going to be blue state Republicans who are going to be on the ballot. They're going to be fighting for their seats. Republicans won't have Obama to blame anymore. And the GOP will be held accountable by a larger electorate. Given these factors, I think this is a really, really good thing. Stay with me on this one. I'll explain why.
Jamming on the one like Theo Huxtable. Days like this when I feel untouchable. I try and make up for all the wrongs I did by living my life like a Cosby kid. Jamming on the one like Theo and Stevie. I know it sounds crazy, but you gotta believe me when I feel.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Jimmy Page to discuss why the acoustic guitar really was the foundation behind many of Led Zeppelin's albums.
It was guitar driven. It was guitar driven. I think that's quite apparent throughout all of this. You know, when we're revisiting and listening to this stuff, and quite surprising for a lot of people. It was also the first, 4 albums were written on acoustic. You can hear the acoustic with Baby I'm Gonna Leave You. I mean, that's very radical compared to what anybody else was doing around that sort of time. But it's acoustic. And there's acoustic on Ramble On, etc. You know, on the second album. Third album, it's the same guitar that I'm writing it on. It gets really played a lot on the third album. And it's the same guitar that plays Stairway. So you can see the acoustic guitar was quite the bed underneath this, although it's still 6 strings, and my various approaches to the electric guitar were still shown within the writing process and what was presented to the band. And okay, this is what we're doing, you know.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Jimmy Page and all your favorite artists.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Fitz and the Tantrums to find out what their success means to them.
Our entire experience of being together has been a dream come true. A lot of bands don't get this opportunity. So every day we sit in gratitude, you know, because we could still be singing at the Hotel Cafe. You know what I mean? So we feel very fortunate. We hope that we inspire other artists that are on the come up to do the same thing, to never say no, to work, to
not giving up.
Yeah, not getting out of line and just, you know, holding it down for themselves and their love for their craft.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Fitz and the Tantrums and all your favorite artists.
What's that sound? Coming so loud from your radio.
So if you're like the vast majority of people I know, you woke up this morning feeling either like things are going to change, yes, we can finally get in there and do things with our ideology, or you woke up feeling like all hope is lost, I'm moving to Canada. And here's why I think the results of yesterday's elections were actually a good thing. And it's not for the reasons that the right-wing honks down the hall who cater to the non-opposable thumb, having AR-15, hoarding, cross-burning, mud hut-dwelling, sister wife and brusband, vestigial tail-wagging types will tell you. It's because of this. Look, after yesterday's elections, ostensibly the Republicans are in charge. They've got control of the House. They've got control of the Senate. And this is a good thing. Why? Because I think it's much more likely to put the gaping flesh wounds in our political process under the microscope and make them impossible to ignore. Too hard for people on either side to ignore. I mean, if you're just joining us, we took a look at how the Republicans are winning. They had a plan to take back the government. 2010, got back the House. They won the Senate last night. And how they do that? Well, they just got out in front of everything in the Senate, played interference, were obstructionists of all sorts of legislation, big, small, in the middle, didn't matter. They got in front of it. They created gridlock. They built this idea of a broken Washington in the American consciousness. And when it came to election night, all they had to do was say, elect us and end the gridlock in Washington. It was essentially holding our political process hostage. And I don't fall on either side of the political fence. So some people would call it a scam. Some people would call it deceitful. I just call it a wildly excellent strategy. I mean, look, it got results. And there's no arguing against results in the world of politics because, as we know, matters of conscience and morals and a personal code by which you live your life have no place in that particular profession. They really don't. So here's the thing. I think this is a fantastic thing for America. Maybe not in the short term. Maybe in the short term. Who knows? Look, I don't know anybody at the moment who would tell you, hey, the thing about America and the political process around here, it's great. I feel like the people in charge know what they're doing. I found an interesting quote from Ronald Reagan, who said, politics is supposed to be the second oldest profession. I've come to realize that it bears a very close resemblance to the first. Yeah, that's Reagan. But here's the dealio, and this is why this could wind up being a very good thing. Not for the left, not for the right, not for Republicans, not for Democrats, not for the Tea Party, not for libertarians, but for America and American people. See, in 2016, blue state Republicans, they're going to be on the ballot fighting for their seats. They won't have Obama to blame anymore. The GOP is going to be held accountable. It's not going to be a huge surprise if the folks who were the snake oil salesmen of the Senate created the problem, then offered the solution. It's not going to be a huge surprise if they all go down in flames in 2016 after people go, hey, what? Oh, you didn't do anything either. I know Republicans that were concerned about winning this race. Republicans were afraid of winning. So many people are afraid of winning. It's crazy. But people who are Republicans were actually afraid of winning because you know what winning does? It creates accountability. It's kind of like the end of a relationship. You know, when you break up with someone, a good way to deal with it is to just villainize the other person. Oh, my ex was crazy. My ex was awful. My ex was a terrible person that ruined my life. And in some cases that may be true, but in most cases it's just a matter of like, things weren't going so well and I needed a scapegoat. And the only way I can deal with the pain at the end of the relationship is to completely villainize the other person. Everything would be better without them. They're the source of everything that's wrong in my life with the universe. You can get that way in a relationship, right? You can blame every last problem with your life on the person you're with. They're an easy scapegoat. Yet, Sometimes when you wind up out of that relationship, when you wind up free as a bird and everything's supposed to be awesome all over again, and you're supposed to get back to you and really live your life by your personal code, you go, oh, crap, I'm alone. And all the things I was doing in the context of that relationship, well, I'm doing them now. I'm repeating